This whole session is on parent and student communication. This is a really tricky one, depending upon the grade level you're in. So our K through, do I have K2 teachers? Do I have a bunch of K2 teachers? Raise your hand or wave or like do something so that your movement tells me you are K2. I see Mary's K2. Who else I got? Oh yeah, Melissa, Daryl, good to see you guys. Okay, so I do have a few K2 teachers and I saw another one in there. Sorry, I had to switch back. Angela, yes, K2, yep. Okay, so feel free to hop in here at any point in time, put it in the chat or put it in the, just unmute and just say something. But here's something really important. So my parent and student communication, this whole presentation is built off of me being a parent and me being in a role where I kind of have some ideas of how to do it, but I'm not with students. So you are, so feel free to hop in here, okay? Highly interactive, and at no point ever will I be offended if you unmute yourself and throw in and interject something, okay? Ask Colby, totally true. See, Molly's already saying, yep, that's totally true. She will not be offended. So our learning intentions for this are to better understand the purpose of two-way communication with parents and students and to determine sustainable methods for you. Because right now, what I'm hearing from teachers is I'm on communication overload. And I think with level 2, it kind of lifted some pieces of that, but it's really hard when you have kids in the classroom and you are working so hard to connect with them because you see their eyeballs and you just want to be with them. And then you also have these virtual learners that you also need to support and to help them know exactly what it is they need to do and the learning they need to do. So it's tough and the struggle is real. So we're going to kind of take a look at how this looks and why. So I'm not going to read this meme to you, but this is really kind of where some of our students are, some of our teachers are, and some of our parents. If we look back at the feedback we got from families back from the learning that happened in the spring, the big issue that parents had is they didn't know what to do. They didn't know how to help their learner. It was, they just kind of felt flooded with information and not knowing how to ask for help. So this is what we're going to take care of. So if you look at, and I have all of them printed out here, but, and I attached them to the email, but it's just these instructional guidance for administrators and teachers. Every single one, K-12, talks about, oh, I'm sorry, I got ahead of myself. I have to define two-way communication. So this is going to be really important. We want to make sure that we have the teacher to student communication, which that's easy, right? Right now we're seeing our students and we can have that communication with them. We want to have student to teacher. That's easy. They're in our classrooms, they raise their hand, they ask a question, however that interaction goes for you. Parent to teacher. Do your parents feel comfortable emailing you to ask that question? Which that could look different too if you are in the 9-12 setting, right? We want those students to also become more independent and leverage their own communication skills. And then teacher to parent, like how much information are you sending out to parents? So this is that whole two-way communication is basically you giving out information and both parents and students feeling okay reaching out to you the same way. So most times students or teacher to parent communication is what we see the most of. Okay, what would be, so we're going to think of some ways that we can use, I'm sorry, I'm presenting, but I have things on the bottom that I can't see. 1 second here. What are some digital tools that we can use to change or increase our two-way communication? So this is going to be coming from our instructional guidance. So if you look at those additional considerations for all of them, and I put the number, that is the number 1 there. I know it's a little funky font, but elementary really emphasizes in the instructional guidance is it's with students and their families. Okay, so that would make sense for the K-5 setting. Mary says that she uses Dojo. Yes, great example. The tough part about Dojo is, are your students in Dojo too? Okay, So some teachers, my elementary kids are only in, they're not in Dojo. They're not getting messages via Dojo. So it's a great point to make. And so if I was an elementary teacher and that was me, and I'm like, oh, my students should be in Dojo and they can get the messages too. They love those pictures. They love all that interaction. So thanks for adding that, Mary. Middle school additional considerations, it's communications to students, and same as high school. Okay, teacher credibility. So if any of you are at all familiar with the distance learning playbook, the work of Fisher, Fry, and Hattie, it really emphasizes teacher credibility is one of the pieces. So if we look at this, it means that our teachers are believable, credible, and capable of persuading students that they can be successful, right? And if you don't read that and kind of think, darn tootin', there's this like, that's just why we got into this, right? That all students can learn. So what are some specific actions to take to increase your credibility? Well, guess what one of them is? Anybody? Bueller. It might be parent communication. Yeah. So it's making sure that you have consistent communication also with your students too in our higher grades, because they like to know that. And if you don't have them bringing that communication in an appropriate way, you're just going to be flooded. And we don't want to do that. So do your students believe they can learn from you? In a virtual setting, it's very different than when you have them face-to-face. We can all attest to that. Do their parents believe that they can learn from you? So if you created such a connection that the parents are like, that teacher is gangbusters and I love all that they're doing. Okay, so those are the things that we want to think about, is what are we doing so that so our parents and students believe that we got their back and we're supporting them. Okay, personal reflection. So this is mean, I do not want you to answer this out loud. I want you just to read these 3 questions. In reading those 3 questions, if some of those questions make you go, maybe I need to do that, let's talk about some ways that you can do that. Because it is really tough. It's really tough being a parent and navigating and trying to help your student when you don't understand the LMS and every single teacher builds it differently. It's really hard to help my younger students when they're not motivated and don't get help at home. It's really hard to, so these are all things that parents are saying. So how can we help them? And I think, you can give me a reaction on this one, but this last one of how have you ensured that your students feel close to you? We know how to do this when we have students in our classroom. We know how to do this. So what are we doing when our students are away from us and we possibly go back to level 2 or even level 3? Because this is really important. This is how our students continue to have that, we have that credibility with our students when they feel close to us. They want to do work. This is going to blow your minds. They want to do work when they like you and respect you and you have credibility with them. So effective communication. What are tools we or you, okay, use to effectively communicate with students? So our good friend Mary already shared that she uses Dojo and she uses it with her students. So her students are in and her parents. You can unmute or put it in the chat. Seesaw. So you're using Seesaw for parent communication too? Okay, I see Canvas inbox, Canvas announcements. There is a setting in announcements that makes it actually show up on your homepage of your course. And if you haven't seen that yet, you're going to want to use that. I call a few parents on a Google phone number every week. Adam, that's a really great suggestion. What are the parents or students calling you back on the Google phone?
Yeah, so I just have my own number, and then I leave, like if I have to leave a voicemail because it comes up as like an out of area code, they can call me back on it and then I can answer it. So a lot of the times I'm talking to parents um, either about, typically I try to call like 4 families a week of like something that I notice that's positive in students. And so like that way I don't have to give my personal phone number out and I don't have to stand in the hallway on the like main landline that we have.
It creates a real, because they can text you on that too, can't they?
They can, yes.
It really, and you, what grade level are you, Adam?
3rd grade.
3rd grade. Okay.
Nicole, may I interrupt just for a
Yeah,
minute?
please.
I just want to say I think that's a great thing, Adam, that you're doing. And you know, in the world we live in now, obviously there's so many different ways to communicate, but you know, still the old-fashioned quote unquote way of making a phone call is a really personal way to connect with a lot of families. Not that there's anything wrong with emails or texting, but just so people can hear your voice. It just seems like it's kind of going a little bit the extra mile, so to speak, to really make that personal connection. And I think, and again, what Nicole shared earlier about just reaching out to parents, you know, how much too of that communication is positive. So the fact that you're making an effort to share something positive is also a very positive thing in a way that we can really make that connection, I think, a lot stronger. So thanks.
Adam, you don't pay for the Google phone number, do you? Yeah. Something else that Colby brought up, and I really want to ring, this is something that really rings true. There is something about getting the intonations within your voice and the expressions on your face. It's a definite different way of communication that we often forget when we send emails. Okay, raise your hand if you've ever written an email and someone took it not the way you wrote it. Yeah, okay, I have 2 hands. And anyway, I send a lot of emails, people. But I think the really important thing also, and I need someone to tell me if this happens with Google Classroom. I don't think you can, but maybe you can add a video feedback. I know within Canvas, if you think about it, teachers, so in your speed grader, there is a video tool and you can click on it and you can just say things like, hey, Adam, thanks for your feedback. You did a great job on this. I want you to take a look at this assignment again, and I want you to resubmit it doing ... Boom, and submit. So think of how, if that's just in writing, how that seems really a lot more harsh, and it didn't take me long. It was, so using that feature in SpeedGrader is really, that's something that we see a lot of video, but it's like this. Zoom video. So having a teacher that took the time to make a video for you, which really it didn't take long, but we all get the point. Okay. I see snail mail on there as a way to celebrate students' achievements. And I heard that from Madison, and I believe Madison Foster, you're elementary, correct? Postcards to students, letting them know that you notice things. Oh, I love using the I notice. You don't have to say, I like your shirt. You can just say, I noticed your shirt, and they think it's the same. Okay, yep. Let's see here. Anything else that you see in the chat there, Colby, that we haven't mentioned? Skyward emails for a class. If you do not know how to email parents using Skyward, it is awesome. You can email parents with all of them. You can email parents that have students with a certain grade. You can email parents with that. Also in Canvas, it allows you to do the same message. If you click on the snowman in a single assignment and you select message students who, you can message all the students who haven't done an assignment yet. And any of these things that we bring up and you're like, what, I didn't know how to do that. Please, we'll have some time, a little quick time here at the end that we can talk about that. All of these same things that we're talking about, the last one was for parents and this one's for students, same thing, right? We just have to know how it looks for parents when we communicate with them. So when so if you're in Google Classroom, a little misunderstanding is if I put so a student sends me in a comment in an individual assignment, right? You know what I'm talking about? And I reply back with my answer, the student on the desktop version doesn't know it's there unless they A, check their email, or B, go back to that individual assignment to look for it. Now in Canvas, if you send them an individual comment, it will go to just them. It will go in their message, which if their notifications are turned on, it'll get an email too. So it all comes back to this email. I don't think we're going to talk about, I think we know what are something, but something I want you to think about. Have you sent home something that has helped inform parents of how your classroom works? Whether it's, and I think secondary teachers, you're like grading weighted scale, whether it's how you set up your assignments for the week, anything like that. And if you took any of the video sessions, the Screencastify or Canvas Studio, you can easily crank those out. It doesn't have to take long, but creating something that so parents know what to expect, so they're not surprised. No one wants to be blindsided. So resources for communication, and you guys, of course, because you're the rock stars you are, came up with more than just this little short list. But I really want to talk about this because these are kind of some big heavy hitters that we're using right now, especially in the LMS. Our Class Dojo helps with communication with parents and now students. We talked about, so how many of you using Google Classroom have Guardian summaries turned on, and you know you have guardians that are using it?
What that is.
I'm seeing no one. Okay. Guardian summaries, what it does is it sends home an email. They can set it up either daily or weekly, and it's just an update of these are the assignments in your kids' classes. It's pretty simple. It doesn't put the Guardian in your class. So we kind of talked about students with assignments, and something that is really interesting if you didn't know, whoops, you can send individual stream posts to individual students. So if you aren't using that and it's something that you want to start using, your students do have to check out your Google Classroom stream for your class to be able to see that. Okay, Canvas, some of you mentioned that you send individual messages in Canvas. That also goes to their email and they can reply to it from their email. Also, observer access is something that some parents are using and setting up those codes. And if you're not sure how to do that, I would more than happily show you how to do that. And I'm sorry, I'm kind of zooming because I want to get done on time. I don't think anyone's gonna. But this is the really big one. And if any of you attended the, or were able to attend the TIE conference last spring, so one of the presenters, he was our keynote, he said this was the big thing, moving to a 4-day school week, and they had a digital Friday. This was the thing that he emphasized most, and it says Google Classroom, but it's for Canvas too. Your students should be checking their email every day, and this is more of our 3 and up. And why? Because there's a lot of stuff that goes in there that they don't know, and it's also really, it's a form of communication that helping our students know how to do that appropriately. But maybe a thing of telling your students, hey, I want you to get to work and I want you to email me if you have a question, if that's easier for you to check than all of the comments in Google Classroom. Pick something to streamline the communication that works for you. Let your students know and let your parents know. That's really the big thing. Oh, this one I have the parent pair code link on and the Guardian summaries. This is also something that I want to look at this one though. This is a better one. Using a Google form. And if you guys were in our earlier session, Andy presented how to use this like student contact form. So when you contact parents, because this is required for some of our digital learning, using this form, and then it creates a sortable piece that you can then look back on and have as a reference for required communication with families. So Adam gave the example of calling families. So you would enter that into this Google form. You create the form and you use the form, which can kind of be a little tricky at first, but you then put in the communication that you had. And this is where you can capture all your notes in a real streamlined process. And if you want, just email me that you want the student contacts form, and we'll send you out the link and you can just create your own copy and then you own it and we don't have to see all your data that you put into it. This is something really important to remember. Parents like to know because they actually want to help you. Okay, so I always am reminded about when students, like there's a teacher and then there's a student and then like there's that other third person who really wants their students to do well and they're sending you the best they got, and that's the parent. So we want to make sure that we help them with things like what's your grading practices, expectations, if there's large projects going on, and how to work your LMS. Something that this is going to blow your minds, but secondary students don't always share out what happens in school. And so parents, I know, parents really love that communication of what's going on and just kind of just knowing. And I know a lot of elementary teachers use different resources like class, I can't even think of the word now. Like I'm totally brain dead at 7 o'clock at night. Like an update letter of these are the things we're learning in math and this is what we're doing in reading and this is, and so often they do that in elementary, so that's not necessarily new to you. But I always think about like Class Dojo sending home pictures of what you're doing in class. Parents love that stuff just to create that credibility, like we are doing good stuff in here. And I want you to be able to help. All right. We are going to, oh, that's a really beautiful slide. So your aha takeaway or application, and this is, I want you just to pocket this because this is kind of it's part of our debrief for the whole presentation. So we're gonna, Amber, is there a tutorial on how to email parents out of Skyward? Whew. I bet I'll find you one. Yeah, we can look at that, Amber, for you. I don't have a class in Skyward, so I can't model it for you. Otherwise, I would. Otherwise, I'd just show you right now.
Hey, Nicole, can I add something to that real quick?
Please. Who? Yes.
This is Ryan Wheely.
Hey, Ryan.
Yeah, so I email parents pretty regularly using Skyward, and the only issue I would warn of is that sometimes it goes to people's spam folders out of Skyward, so just watch out for that.
And it only works if they have a correct email in Skyward. But the really great thing that I've done is when it gets shot back to me, this is where the phone call comes in. I'll call them. Let them know that their Skyward email is inaccurate. Because right now, there's just so much going into email and communication in that digital format that they really need to have that updated. Awesome. Okay. Do you want to take a moment to breathe or you just want to like a Band-Aid? Go for it.